Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Special Education Legal Fund's School Showcase featuring Winston Preparatory School in Norwalk, Connecticut. My name is Christine Lai, and I am the Executive Director and co-founder of Special Education Legal Fund, and will be moderating today's showcase. First of all, for those of you who are not familiar with us, Special Education Legal Fund is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2018, and our mission is to provide resources, knowledge, and support to families in need with children in the special education system. We do this predominantly through two grants programs: the Legal Assistance Program, which is for attorneys, and the Advocacy Support Program, which is for advocates. These grant programs are currently accepting applications, and what they are is the legal assistance program provides families in need with up to $6,000 in legal support from a qualified special education attorney through a competitive grants application process. The advocacy support program provides families in need with $1,000 in advocacy support from a qualified non-attorney advocate, also through a competitive grants process. Both of the grants programs are run on a monthly basis, which means that we accept and review applications on a monthly basis. For more information about this, about the timeline, about how to apply, please visit our website. The link here is below, but it is www.spedlegalfund.org, and you can click on Apply for a Grant to get started. We also, in the interests of my continuing commercial for S.E.L.F, we are also having, tonight we are hosting another webinar in our evening webinar series on anxiety and mental health. We're really, really pleased to bring this webinar back because obviously it's, incredibly important for our students today. And we're going to talk about anxiety, depression, school refusal, and how to help a student with mental health challenges at school, at home, and beyond. Special education attorney Dana Johnson's joining us, as well as Dr. Tammy Moskrip from the Spire School and Dr. Adrian Smaller from Yale Child Study, all my favorites. The next month, we have a special webinar preparing for college, which is going to bring together a number of school educators, including Steph Zabar, Amanda Sylvester from Fusion Academy, and Danielle Meyer from the Harvey School. And we're going to talk about all the ways in which your high school student who has an IEP or 504 plan or is enrolled at a special education school can prepare and should prepare and will prepare for college. So that's Wednesday, April 24th. You can register using the QR code or the same way that you registered for this webinar. And then finally, our next upcoming school showcases, much like this one, will be in April, on April 11th with the Pinnacle School and April 25th with the Spire School. Both of those will take place at noon, and you can register the same way that you registered for this webinar. Finally, I am so pleased to have Winston on this for this school showcase, and I'll talk a little bit more about why it's so special and important to me. But first, I want to introduce Steph Zabar, who is starting her 20th year at Winston as the head of school. She has had pretty much, like all roles, at any role that you can have at Winston, Steph has had. She knows, the school, from inside and out, was intimately engaged with, the startup of the school in Connecticut, and also has a background in speech and language pathology. So she is, very, very, very well prepared to support students at Winston, through her background as a speech and language pathologist. So welcome, Steph, to our panel.
Thank you.
Next, we are welcoming Michelle Rolfe, who is in her 14th year at Winston Prep, which you'll see is a theme, with Winston in both Connecticut and New York and beyond is the real longevity of the staff. Michelle's 14th year or 7th year as admissions director. She has also held, a plethora of roles at Winston, and as well as in focus teacher, and as well as admissions director. And we're very, very pleased to have Michelle join us on this call to talk about all things Winston, the admissions process, and bringing students into the Winston community. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Christine.
And finally, I'm so very thrilled that Jordan Yannotti is joining us. Jordan is the assistant head of school at Winston Prep Connecticut. He has also been, an academic dean, I think a focus instructor, a teacher. And most importantly, at least for me, Jordan is one of the three Winston professionals who was really instrumental in my family's journey through Winston Prep, along with Beth Sugarman, former head of school, and Lauren Macbeth, actually, Spencer's focus teacher. Jordan really, was instrumental in Spencer and my son's progress through the school. And I really just can't be more thrilled to welcome Jordan to this call. He's also been at Winston for 19 years and held a plethora of roles at the school, and is an expert on all things Winston. And we're just thrilled to have him. So welcome.
Thank you.
Just because this wouldn't be a webinar without a disclaimer. This webinar panel is presented for informational purposes only. It is intended as a resource for families who are navigating the special education system in Connecticut, New York. It's not intended to provide legal support, assistance, or guidance to any particular individual, nor is it intended to replace the advice and counsel of a qualified special education attorney. Families in need of advice, support, or assistance should contact a special education attorney licensed to practice in their state of residence to discuss the specific needs of their individual student. This webinar should not be construed as an endorsement by Special Education Legal Fund or any of its representatives of any of the participating attorneys, advocates, or professionals, nor should it be construed as an endorsement of any school or school representative invited to appear on this series. And with that, we will begin. I just have so many emotions watching that video, actually. As I said, I'm a former Winston parent, and am just thrilled to welcome, you guys to this series. Winston has a special place in my family's heart for the three, really transformative years that, that my son had, was able to, participate and learn and grow in your program. And honestly, he's a freshman in college now. And, to be honest, he would not be where he is today without, the time that he spent at Winston. So, I'm truly grateful for, our, being able to be part of the Winston program. I'd love if we could start out with everybody, maybe beginning with Steph, then Michelle, then Jordan, talking about your path and how you ended up at Winston.
Sure. Hi, Christine. Thank you for that wonderful welcome, and the work on that video was lovely. So my path to Winston, as you had mentioned, I'm a speech language pathologist by training. And I started off my career actually thinking I was going to work in a hospital environment with trach and vent patients. So definitely found myself on a different path to lead me here. And after working in a hospital environment for about a year and a half, I was like, no,
Not
this
for
isn't
me.
really for me. It's a little too linear. I need something even more complex, actually. I was like, I want to get inside the brain. And I want hard problems to solve in an interesting way, and connecting with school-age children. I really found that I really enjoyed that interaction. So found myself turning to a private practice in White Plains, working for Lydia Soifer, and was there
A
for
true
3
rock
years.
star.
A true rock star. If there's any place to learn about the brain and metacognition, and worked with psychologists on her in her practice, which really opened my mind even beyond my initial training as speech and language, left brain, left brain. This really opened up my understanding of just learning overall. So that was an incredible experience for me. But that was also private practice, working outside of a school, couldn't get in there to make the change I really was interested in doing, because it was sort of like repair the things
Right.
that weren't going well from the
Right.
outside. I wanted to be inside. And found an opportunity at Winston Prep. I was a little like, really, is this a real place? When you learn about the program, like,
Yeah.
can this be real?
Can this
Like,
be real? Is
could
this
this be
actually going to
real?
work the way they say it's going to?
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I was a little
Yeah.
skeptical. And I
Yeah.
had
Totally.
another speech and language person on the inside who was like, no, really, it's real. Like, this is what's happening. You would really love this. The conversations we're having are the conversations you would really love having. I was like, okay. And I came aboard as a focus teacher, 7 students on my caseload, versus a typical school environment with, 60 on your caseload. Because I knew I didn't want to be a speech and language public school person. Like, that
Right.
wasn't what I wanted to do either. So I was very particular about the path I wanted to take. So joined Winston Prep, and it was all they described and more. And the opportunity to then, come to Norwalk to replicate this model that was growing so much in New York. The year I joined Winston Prep in New York, they had grown the school by 100 students or more. So it was a huge growth spurt for them. And then let's try this now in Norwalk, and join when Jordan was on the team as well, along with Beth Sugarman, who was the head of school, founding head of school here. And we did replicate the model, and it has been amazing. And I was able to come on as focus program director, and then assistant head. And now this year I'm the head of school here. So it's been an amazing journey. And just so fulfilling and amazing. So that's how I got here.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, so similar in how I was impressed with Winston Prep. I started off, I got my degree in education from Vanderbilt University down in Nashville. And I remember feeling, when it was time for graduation, I felt confident in teaching students everything but teaching them how to read. And I thought, I don't feel like I know enough yet. I wanted to really delve into, similar to Stephanie, I wanted to delve into the science and the research and better understand, how do you teach struggling readers? So I found this wonderful little program at Columbia University, a master's program that's really science-based, delving into how to help remediate struggling readers, and it really designed for one-on-one small group work. So I had a wonderful experience there. I got my master's there and really seamlessly transitioned to a focus teacher at Winston Prep. It was like a dream job, being able to work one-on-one to remediate students who were struggling in a research-based way, in a really scientific way. You know, we often at Winston Prep, we talk about being, the science of learning and the art of teaching. And it was just a dream job. We'll explain more what the focus program is, but that's how I started at Winston Prep, transitioned into the admissions director there so I could help share the knowledge about Winston Prep, which has been wonderful. And then I had an opportunity to move up to Connecticut to continue working in admissions. And here we are today.
Amazing. Thank you. Jordan?
Well, great. I was at Winston, New York, and I was teaching science and math my first year and really was enjoying it. But I became curious about the focus program. So that summer, I had the opportunity to take on a couple of focus students. Following that, really that next year, that second year, I started to kind of see how all the pieces really came together, having the opportunity to be a classroom teacher, but also being that one-to-one focus teacher and working closely with students on their greatest areas of need was something that was really exciting and inspiring. And as the months went on and I heard about this opportunity that they're going to be opening a new Winston in Connecticut, I was just like, this is what I need to do. This is exciting. And I want to be part of this startup, part of a new place. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. My family and I, we relocated here. And it's our 17th year here in Connecticut. And I started off being more of the role of the school counselor, then the director of the summer program, really enjoying that, getting to meet some new families that come to Winston, helping them get acclimated. From there, becoming a dean and overseeing those cohorts and working closely with the students and the teachers was just so rewarding and just enjoyable. And having the opportunity last year and being, I was just so grateful to be able to be the assistant head. And this has just been a really exciting year and looking forward to what's to come.
Wonderful. I'm gonna, switch up my questions a little bit because you guys have talked a little bit about the focus program. Share with us a little bit about the focus program because each one of you mentioned it as sort of being like a seminal part of your Winston experience. And then I mentioned it as well because it was a very important part of ours. So, maybe if you could share a little bit about the focus program, as a basis for how you provide support to students in the Winston community.
Yeah. The focus program, I think, is also a hallmark of what makes us a little different from the other schools out there who also work with special, ed students or students with learning differences, because it goes against what's out there, right? It's not a pull-out model. Mm-hmm. Every student who comes to Winston Prep as a student here has a focus session every day with the same teacher. And it's an individualized session, just you and that same teacher every day. And that teacher develops a program designed for individually targeting your areas of greatest need. So they develop goals that, reflect similar to an IEP goal sounding, objective, measurable goals, and targeting areas such as it could be reading comprehension, written language, social communication, problem solving, executive functioning, maybe some math skills. It really depends on that student's profile and what their needs are. So it's usually about 10 or 12 goals that are targeted individually in those focus sessions. The focus teacher, right, is in close collaboration with the team of teachers that are teaching your child. And there's lots of communication. And then the focus teacher is also the point person for the family. Mm-hmm. So that's the person who you turn to as a parent to find out how it's going in your child's experience. It's a dialogue between you and the school through that person. And you are able, we invite parents to share their feedback with us. Mm-hmm. There's lots of communication with Winston Prep and families, mm-hmm. and that focus teacher is sort of that point person. It's, if there's a little like, oh, I have a question about science homework, or my child mentioned this, what's this about? Or even just like coming up next month is a dance, like you'll mm-hmm. hear lots of information from that that real person who's
I love my weekly
expert.
summary from my
Exactly.
weekly email summary from my focus teacher, which was really a download of everything that had happened in the week in each specific class, you know, and then and what had happened after school. It's like, this happened in math, this happened in, you know, in English, this happened in, you know, and it was really this is what we're working on in focus, you know, and to your point, you know, the focus, you know, focus changes, you know,
Mhm.
over the course of, you know, the students' time at the school. So in one, you know, at the beginning of the year, it might be, you know, social pragmatics, you know, it might move more into, you know, some more, you know, ELA work, and then, you know, something else. So it really is designed to, you know, to support the child and the student and whatever the student needs. And it's very, very flexible and supportive in that way.
Absolutely, exactly. And there's a plan put in place, and then we monitor the plan, and
Mhm.
then we update and adjust to make sure we are where the student needs us to
Mhm.
be, right? We
Mhm.
want to have that right entry point for students. So that focus experience, the students and families become, you know, really engaged with that focus teacher. And that's you know, as you've mentioned, Lauren Macbeth, you know, it's a powerful relationship.
Mhm.
That you make this connection, and you have this trusted person at the school, right? That's like that,
Yeah.
you know, you can like, let me ask this person the question, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just it's a wonderful experience, and they become the expert on your child's
Mhm.
learning profile, and it really sets us apart.
They're sort of like the GM, you know, the general manager of the, you know, of the program. That's the way I think about it. You know,
Yeah.
whereas if you, the parent, are the architect, you know, you know, in partnership with the school of what your child's program is, the focus teacher, the focus instructor is the general manager. They're the contractor. They're the one that gets it done. They're the one that manages all the, you know, all the subs and everything. So that's
Yeah.
always the way I sort of thought about it.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about, you know, the admissions process at Winston and how you bring a student into the school and the community, and also how you think about, you know, cohorts, which we talked a little, you know, someone had alluded to, I think it was Jordan. Um, you know, talk a little bit about how you group students and, you know, and how that supports both learning and your model.
Mhm. Michelle, you want to kick off with
Sure.
admissions?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So we are rolling admissions, and you know, the goal of our admissions process is really to determine if we can be the right place to help a student. You know, students come to us when they're struggling in a conventional setting, or maybe they are in another specialized program and looking and feeling successful and looking to continue that success. We're middle and high school, typically grades 5 through 12. Sometimes we have a fourth grader who can join us. And the reason there's that flexibility is because we don't group students by grade. We're not just saying, here's the, you know, set curriculum. Here's the fifth grade curriculum that we're teaching all of our fifth grade students, no matter what their profile is, no matter what their strengths are, where they're struggling in school. That's what a conventional school will do. That's what a public school model is, right? They have a preconceived, prescribed program that they're giving to all students, regardless of who they are as learners. It's the opposite. We're starting with, who is this child? Who are they as a learner? Where are their strengths? What are they struggling with, right? What's getting in the way of them reaching their potential? And at Winston Prep, what we do is we group students by similar learning profile, and Stephanie will speak more to the learning profiles, but we group them by learning profile so that they are with students who learn like them. They're no longer feeling like the outlier. They're no longer feeling like, I'm the only one who's struggling, which is not actually the case, but it feels like that to a lot of students who come to us. They're with students who learn like them. They're getting skill remediation throughout the day in their greatest areas of need, and they're feeling successful again. So, you know, in the admissions process, again, it's all about determining if we can help them. You know, we want to help students who are struggling in the conventional setting. What we do is so different, thinking so diagnostically and thinking so responsively to, you know, when you're struggling, why? Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's delve deep into it. We're not, you know, if you get a D on a test, we're not just moving on. right? We want to figure out what went wrong and help you develop those skills, right? So otherwise it turns into, you're just, the train is full steam ahead and I am way back on lesson 2 and I don't understand lesson 2 and they're already on lesson 10 and they can't slow down for me. What we do is just so different. So, so we get to know students through the admissions process. We start with, typically students have a neuropsych or psychoed evaluation. It might be public school testing, that triennial testing, but that's where we start. We're always starting with the data so we can really dig into what the cognitive scores tell us, what the achievement testing tells us, where are the strengths, where are the challenges, again, so we can determine if we have an appropriate group. Really, most importantly in the process, they come in for a visit. So we actually get to know them. We get to do some work with each student. So we're looking beyond just numbers on the page, but really getting to understand each child and that anecdotal observation about, how they're responding. Do they have strategies? Are they rushing through? Just really trying to get to know each child individually. And carefully. They then visit classes. So they actually get to spend time in the classroom, meeting other students. They visit a group we see being a potential fit. And that can be a really powerful experience for students, especially students who are in such a different environment, to realize wait, there is something else out there. And that felt really good. And I understood what the teacher was talking about. So again, we're rolling admissions. So as soon as we have that visit, we're making decisions, and it's a big puzzle putting everyone together, but it's great work, and we're happy to do it. So
I can speak a little bit more about kind of like who our students are. Through the admissions process, as Michelle said, we're taking in the data from the evaluations and the assessments, and meeting your child, seeing how they are performing on these tasks, and trying to kind of put all those pieces together to conceptualize, and understand the child's learning profile. What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? And we utilize a neuropsychological lens to do that. So we look at 3 main areas of learning processing, right? That all our brains are doing, right? We have that language-based processing, which is, typically that decoding, the encoding, the reading, portion of learning in the classroom. And then we're also looking at the nonverbal processing skills, which doesn't mean that students are not having the capacity to verbalize. It actually indicates visual spatial challenges. And in testing, you see that in terms of visual spatial and fluid reasoning areas. And we're looking at that very carefully of, how are they able to take in and reason without language, because that has a lot of impact. Students who have weaknesses in that area is much more poorly understood in the field of education, especially in conventional settings. And we at Winston Prep really think carefully and have even done our own research and studies upon the topic, to further understand how to target those skills and students functioning who come to us with those weaknesses. Those weaknesses translate into students that struggle with higher level comprehension and critical reasoning, difficulty with areas of math, especially higher level math skills. Although sometimes those students also excel in math, so that also complicates matters, and puts us on our toes to really look at all the skill levels there. And it also can very much impact executive functioning and organizational skills, planning, problem solving. Students with visual spatial challenges often are great with novelty, right? They're rote learners. They have really good memories. They like facts. They excel in that area. They usually excel in reading. Learning to read is very easy for them. But as things build in complexity and novelty is thrown at them in the classroom frequently, they can really fall behind, and all of a sudden they can start struggling later on in years in their schooling. So we are looking at students that also have, the visual spatial, language based. And then the third area is the executive functioning, standalone executive functioning. And those typically students with diagnoses of ADHD and ADD will fall into that category. And that is, a little bit more understood in the educational field in some ways, but also the approaches we are finding in the conventional setting is really accommodating around those needs versus direct instruction to build those skills. And that's what our business, we're in the business of building skills and direct instruction. And so we have students that primarily represent with a core deficit in those areas. So we group students by those areas so that we have like learners in the classroom. When you have like learners in the classroom, now the teacher instructing and the team instructing those students have an understanding of who the learners are and how do I design and scaffold my instruction to match those learners versus in a conventional setting when you might have 5 or 6 different IEPs and different learning challenges in the room, and it's almost an impossible task. And what we're asking, general ed teachers and even special ed teachers to do. This doesn't make sense. So we do,
which is why you end up with so much pull out instruction in that format, as opposed to having it really integrated into the into the model the way it is at Winston. I think that for parents it's kind of a it's a little bit of scary, because you've gone from an environment where you are ticking off the boxes of the things that you're supposed to have. I have 2 speech, 30 minutes, every 6-day cycle. I have 1 counseling session, 30 minutes every 6-day cycle. You all, you integrate that support into the curriculum. I was wondering, maybe if you could address, how you do that and how you build that plan and how you monitor that plan. Maybe Jordan, if you want to, kind of, chime in on, the continuous feedback and, the QSOL, the, qualities of a sustainable independent learner. Is that right? Did I get it right?
That's right.
Yeah, if you could talk a little bit about that, I think that, that's definitely something, at least, for parents coming from that setting, it's always a concern.
Absolutely. So, as as an instructor in the classroom and also as, a dean and assistant head of school, the continuous feedback system is so important because it has a part in so much of what we do, not only in the classroom, but also when we're planning with teachers of what works best, when we're looking at those cohorts and we're, looking at the teachers that we have and who's going to be best to work with this particular profile for the middle school or this profile for the high school. And then what we do is we're always monitoring. As an instructor in the classroom, the continuous feedback system is really what drives what I'm doing in terms of my next concept. What am I doing in terms of my next day? I mean, when I think about, teaching math or any subject, you can't have it mapped out for weeks and months. You have to go in there and you have to really look at, okay, this is how these students are responding. This is their profile. This is where they're starting to feel difficulty and starting to feel overwhelmed. What could I do as a teacher? So what we do here at Winston is we can make those adjustments. We don't have to have that test next Thursday. If we're seeing that our students need a little more practice, maybe we take a step back, we present it in a different format, we give extra repetition, just so our students can build that confidence when they take that assessment and be ready. So there's no, okay, we have to get to this at this particular point. We can kind of take a step back, as I said, and go in a little different direction, maybe dive a little deeper sometimes with certain concepts. And when you're teaching and you're making those adjustments, we're developing our understanding of the students better, and we're able to kind of adjust our program and our methods by looking at their response, and whether their response is in the classroom or through homework, we can kind of say, okay, this is what we need to do differently. Now, what ties into that is not just the academic response of our students, but those qualities of a sustainable and independent learner, the resilience, our students' self-regulation, our students' problem-solving skills, their management and organization. These are the qualities that we really have determined are really, the prognostic indicators of success going forward, because our students need to develop the ability to take on a challenge. I look at students I've had in math who come into the class and, math has always been a struggle for them and they can't do it. So you have to kind of look at it, okay, how can I help this student realize that when you learn something new and novel, it's going to be hard? How can I help them develop that resiliency so they can be able to navigate this
The
more
skill
effectively?
to figure it out, the skill to work it out,
Develop those skills to be able to problem solve more effectively, to develop the skills to be able to, monitor their own focus in class and be able to monitor maybe some of their comments. And that self-monitoring that we're working helps them become more regulated.
Yeah.
And in the focus program, when a student is having challenges with, sustaining regulation, or even, being able to approach something and integrate that feedback, okay, let's have a reflective discussion. So self-reflection is such an important quality as well, targeting the development of the qualities of sustainable independent learner, which we talk about to the students too. It's not just something that we're doing behind the scenes. We're having
No,
those
the
dialogues.
students are very engaged in,
Yes, our
you know,
students
in,
are
in
aware of those
assessing
trends.
themselves, which I think is
Exactly.
great. It's
And that's what
amazing.
Yeah, and at the end of the year, our teachers are assessing it and students are assessing themselves. So we can kind of also monitor, like, okay, let's see how aware that student is. Are they
Right.
aware that the challenge, and how can we raise that awareness if they're
My experience, the student assessment is always a little bit different than the than the teacher assessment. But I think it's a really interesting and innovative model. It comes, obviously from all the research that the Winston umbrella has done on on learning, data-driven research on learning. How do you, because it's so different than what a school, your typical public school offers. How do you work with school districts in, in building this plan and maintaining the, the relationship, particularly for the students that have existing IEPs, and that have been placed at Winston. And, we can talk a little bit about, approved schools versus non-approved schools and what that means for you. But, if you could kind of touch on that for a little bit, that'd be great. Whoever wants to go.
Sure, I'll touch on that. And I think really the key phrase in that question is that what we do is so different, right? And I think that we need to be different than the public school and that conventional setting, which I think we've spoken to a little bit. But for that reason, we are intentionally designing our own program. We are, and like you said, we could give a whole presentation on approved and not approved, but we are, by design, we choose not to be on that approved list because we have to be different from what they are. Kids are coming to us because they've struggled in that conventional setting. So we provide that different model, that continuous feedback. What we do is so different. So, we are, we're not required to follow IEPs. And what we do is actually design our own version of an IEP, as Stephanie spoke to, that we're outlining, and not just in focus, but in every class. We're outlining, we have 4 deans who oversee the groups of learners, and with the support of the dean and our leadership, we're outlining group goals. Here are the goals for the group. Here are the objectives. Here's the materials they will be using, the resources. And it's really, as you spoke to a little bit, Christine, that it's really integrated into the program. There's not pull-out services, because what we do is happening. It's all about that skill remediation all day long. So we're designing our own version of an IEP. We have written narrative reports that outline those goals and objectives, our understanding of each student, there are reports that we send out 3 times a year. And as Jordan spoke to, it's happening all the time. So we're not waiting for an IEP meeting to adapt and make changes, that we're constantly talking about what's working, what's not. But, we're not required to follow that IEP. And I think we're doing a better version of making a more individualized plan. Sometimes IEPs can be very cookie cutter, and we really want to avoid that. We want to really deeply understand each learner and design a program, a flexible program around them. So, our relationships are really with families, not districts. Many families also have relationships then with the district separately. Does that answer?
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. Can you, obviously most of your students, or all of your students, are there for a specific reason. Can you talk a little bit about the trajectory of a Winston student? It's hard to talk in averages, but I know it's, for many families, an independent school tuition is a challenge, so, it's a challenge, to, even if you have district support, in your placement. So, can you talk a little bit about, how long an average student is at Winston? What sort of the general outcome is? Where do your students go after, after Winston? What's the next step? Do you help with placement? And then we can talk about, colleges, because obviously, you're high school and you have great placement, in a number of different, different schools. So I'd love to talk about that as well.
That was a long question.
Yeah, I know. They're all long. Sorry.
Um,
You're like, what
the
did she say in the first part of it?
Yeah, I know. I got the college at the end. I just want to add to tag on to Michelle's answer about our relationship with families and not being an approved, but that doesn't mean that families aren't able to work with their attorneys and districts to settle upon support for Winston Prep. Just because we're not an approved school doesn't mean that a family can't fight for that support. And I think sometimes districts will share that line, and we often have to educate families that that's not the case, and to work with an attorney and we're an advocate to kind of
to make sure
tackle
that the right choice is made.
Exactly.
Not just the
Exactly.
choice that, maybe
Right.
the team is proposing.
Yeah.
Precisely. So I just want
Thank
to
you for
make
the clarification. Yeah, we have many families that do receive district funding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. I
Trajectory of a Winston student, how long
Right.
are students with you?
Thank
What's
you.
that process? Where do they
So
go
that,
after with their
yeah, that the trajectory really is dependent upon the student's profile. As I mentioned, we work with very different, many different profiles and ages, right? So we're in middle school, we can
Right.
accept students even as young as 4th grade. And then we have in high school. Now, we're a little smaller in terms of numbers with our middle school. It's cozier there, usually around 30 students within the middle school. And then in the high school, we're much heavier with 100 to 110 to 120 students in our high school classes. Students who join us, some might stay for 5, 6, 7 years, depending on what grade they come to us with, for a variety of reasons, because this is working, this makes sense. My kid has friends, they're happy, they're feeling confident, they're learning. This is working for me, especially for students that start with 9th grade. Typically, 9th graders will finish the program through 12th grade. Middle school students, it's a little bit more of a split. Some students, because they're with us young, and because those students just respond really well to the program, that when they're looking at that transition, sometimes they might look at other programs or go back to their conventional, their school district, home districts, or other independent school. So we support that transition. Our goal and our mission is independence. Right. So when that happens, we're like, this is great. It's not about just perpetuating something. It's about we're developing those schools and those skills, getting to those points of they're ready for that next step, right? So that can, maybe a student would be here 2 or 3 years versus the 5, 6, so it ranges. I think when we average it all out, it's about 2 to 3 year time frame. And then the college and transition piece, right? So for our high school students, we are very supportive and have a nice, we have a college and transition coordinator whose job is to meet with every family and every student starting in their junior year to think about what are your next steps. And we are very skilled and knowledgeable of the programs that work for our students. Do you want to be far? Do you want to be close to home? Do you want something big? Do you want something small? How much support do you need to continue the trajectory of success? You are on a path of success right now. And here is
how do we continue that?
Because there's no problem getting into schools. Our kids all get into the schools, right? They come in, they have lots of options and choices. It's about what's next, what's best for you, and how are you feeling? And it's a hard decision for any student, including families who are really invested in, let's keep this trajectory going. So it's a supportive program, experience with communication, suggestions, follow-up, supporting students, organizing students. Time for your college essay. Let's take a look at your essay. Let's give you some feedback. We do administer the SAT and ACTs for students who opt into that experience. And so that we are approved for providing that testing for our students that would like to do that. But it's an exciting part of their year, lots of anxiety. And we're very much involved in kind of ushering them towards the next steps.
I'm not able to share that slide, which you gave me this morning.
Okay.
But can you share a little bit about the colleges
Sure.
that your students go to, in terms of, and, also, the students that go to transition programs. And then I want to backtrack and talk about, like middle school, what, where students go, after if they've completed the, sort of the middle school experience and are ready to move on to a high school with less support. So those are sort of two different questions.
Sure. So I'll take the college, and then Jordan, you can take the middle school because you're involved in supporting that transition. So we have, as we have a range of students here, we have a range of college kind of trajectories. So we have maybe some students who want to take a gap year, or maybe they want to have a balance of more transitional skills, those life skills, along with some college experience kind of wrapped up in there. So we might have students that take that kind of slower route towards, or still meaning to build those independent skills. Winston Prep also has their own transition
Transitions program.
program in their
Yep.
city to fill that gap, because they're some students needed a little more time to mature.
That's a great program run by John Savita. And it really is a lovely, lovely program.
Right in Midtown Manhattan,
Yep,
and
right in
it
Midtown.
incorporates like those amazing support of like the focus program, along with internship experiences. And then we have a partnership with Landmark College, which is a college for students with learning disabilities in Putney, Vermont. And we have a dual enrollment program with them. So many of our students, our juniors and seniors, will graduate. By the time they graduate, we'll have,
They'll have
3 to
already
12
taken
credits.
credit at Landmark. Yeah, that's great. I forgot about
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's an incredible opportunity for them. So some students will also, maybe they'll go to a college that have a more built out comprehensive support program, like Marist, for example, a great college for our students. A lot of our students are interested in looking at Marist and love it. And then it has like an add-on comprehensive support program that mimics a little bit more of like the focus experience. And it's really built in, I think 2 or 3 times a week, you meet with the same person. So it kind of has that support, but in a mainstream college environment. So there are programs like that. And then we have students that are really getting, graduate with a lot of independence, and they're really ready, and they're going to like Quinnipiac. I have a couple of students going there next year. I have a student this year going to also, say it again.
Sarah Lawrence.
Sarah Lawrence, thank you. Students that might go to Delphi or Hofstra, they have also some programs. So we have a very wide, or maybe a Curry College, right? So we're a college that does, serve students with more learning challenges, but really a competitive, wonderful kind of transition, next step for them. So it really ranges. But it's an exciting time.
Yeah, it sure is.
And as Stephanie shared, we support our middle school students through the process of if they're looking to transition. And we do have families every year who, a student might have been here for, 2-3 years, and they feel that they've developed those skills. They improved their executive functioning skills, worked on some other skills, and that they're ready for, the next step that may have less support. Some support, but less. And where we've helped some students kind of, with the application process through discussions with families is the schools that our students have transitioned to and been successful include Worcester. Worcester has a really nice program.
Yeah, the bridge program. Yeah.
Allowed our students to, really successfully transition from Winston, find an environment that is a little larger and some a little less support, and be successful. In addition to Worcester, there also is Harvey. We've had students, go to Harvey from Winston Prep and be very successful. We've had students sometimes even, go back to their public school. It's not always that they're going to a private school after. And families, are confident that after 2-3 years that they've kind of, built up their toolbox and have those skills and strategies to take with them to their local district, local school. And we've had students do that and come back and share their success stories and, went on to college. So it really varies kind of the path. The important thing is that when that comes up, we're there to answer their questions and provide that support if that's what they're looking to do, transition out.
Yeah. And you guys are really, the process is really very supportive and nurturing, and and I think that's an important thing for parents to understand is is everybody is a member of this team, and is is looking out for the best interests of the child who is on a path to independence, and how do we get them to that to that goal. Having been a parent that of a child that transitioned out of the middle school into a less supportive independent school environment, I can say definitively that that the Winston team was incredibly supportive of of that process for us. And even though it's very scary always to to anticipate peeling back some of that that scaffolding and support. I want to get back to we touched a little bit about about data, and how and how focused you all are on data in the in the educational process. The Winston Innovations is, also part of the Winston, the umbrella. And, how does that, work in collaboration, sort of trickle down to what you guys do, boots on the ground, so to speak, with your students?
Yeah. So you're referring to our innovation lab, which is an
Innovation
arm
Lab,
of
yes. Yes,
our
that's right.
organization, which really came to being as we began expanding to add campuses,
Mhm,
and providing a central team for all of us
mhm,
to continue and make sure that we're keeping to the mission and the model
mhm,
as we grow.
mhm,
And the innovation lab partners very closely with outside organization and researchers. We have our own research department, and we conduct research of our students. One really important one is our Lives Over Time study, which continues to look at how our students are doing after they leave Winston Prep, right?
mhm,
And that's where the QSIL was developed from. That
mhm.
directly
That's
came
right.
from
That's
that
right.
research. And that is, what we that's our social emotional learning curriculum. But we had that going before that was a thing, before that was
Mhm.
a terminology in the
Yes.
world. It's been about 12 years now.
Yeah.
And those 8 domains were identified through these studies and interviews with our students,
Mhm,
and what areas, what skills they had, and why they were successful, and how
mhm,
we helped build those skills. So that really just reflects, like, studying ourselves and
mhm,
making sure that we are aware of what's working, what's not working, and using that data to guide us into the future. We found that we did a deep study of post-pandemic, how
mhm.
our kids did during the pandemic,
Yeah.
and found that when that happened, when the school shut down in March 2020, we pivoted within 2 days to a full online learning experience for our
Mhm,
students.
mhm,
And we found that students, not only they did not lose skills, they
mhm,
continued to build the skills on the trajectory they were at.
mhm.
And that we also studied their social emotional skills, and that our students, whereas the country's continuing to grapple with the crisis of the mental health
Yeah.
aftermath of the pandemic, our students have have not been as impacted.
Mhm,
And in fact, we found a correlation that as their QSIL skills, their areas of resilience, problem solving,
mhm.
advocacy, self-reflection, as those skills improved, there followed the academic skills,
Yeah.
really just emphasizing the importance between those 2 areas of learning.
Yeah.
If a student's feelings about their self, their social emotional growth, if those skills are not prioritized, the rest of the learning and the teaching, they're not available
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it
the
really,
resilience cuts across all, everything,
absolutely.
the ability to, to teach a student to be resilient, is something that feeds through their, their social life, their academic life, at a certain point, their work life, everything is, it's one of the most important skills, so I think you guys, are doing, a tremendous job, and imparting that to, students, not only students, but family, because we all have to be involved in in that process of of resilience building, and not kind of jumping in to solve every every little thing, even though we still are inclined to do that. I I want to talk about I've like really 2 more questions, and And I want to talk about what your students do outside of class. I mean, I think that, if I look at, what has changed the most about Winston since, my family's time there, I think I would say that it's the growth, the depth and the breadth of the student activities. So, I don't know, Jordan, if you want to talk a little bit about that, what kids do, outside of their class.
Absolutely. And I think it's has grown over the past 5 years. We've, really responded to student interests, families, kind of their interests in some activities, and we really increased our offerings. Our sports program, which was something that, we were working on, and we were kind of looking at how can we really kind of get our foot in the door in terms of kind of making some gains in terms of being in a league or something. And we've done that in
Yeah.
basketball. So we, over the past few years, have really created a wonderful basketball program from the ground up, and have allowed our students to have that opportunity to be on a team and to see what it's like to kind of go through that path
Yeah.
of growth of,
Yeah.
okay, now we're learning what it's like to be on a team. Now we're learning
Yeah.
what it's like
To work together. Yeah.
yeah, and to learn what it's like to win and also navigate those losses as well, which helps, build those QSIL
Yep.
skills and that
Yep.
things. And this year we increased it. We have a boys basketball team. We also have a girls basketball team. We have a cross country program, and then we have some other activities too that are sports related. We have fencing that we still offer. We have touch football. We have volleyball, kickball. So we have those activities for students who want to be outside, want to be running around, want to be playing a sport, but aren't looking to be on a team. We have some great activities for other students. We have a jewelry making, we have a karaoke club, we have a STEM workshop class that we kind
The
of mix
theater
in.
program.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The culinary. And then we have a very strong theater program, which provides students an opportunity to shine and to be on stage. Students maybe have been hesitant in their prior school because they weren't comfortable enough or confident. But through the Winston Theater program, they get to be on stage and they get to work with their classmates, for 3-4 months on a production. Then be up there and show their parents and members of the community what all their hard work really how it paid off. A couple of weeks ago, we had our theater program for this year do a production of Meet Me in St. Louis, which
That's right.
was
Yeah.
comedy, and seeing some new students combined with some returning students up there was really special. So we have a lot of opportunities after school for our students.
Amazing. It's really grown, and and it's been tremendous, a tremendous experience for the students that are participating in this kind of broad swath of activities that you have for them. I guess in conclusion, what is what are kind of 3 words that you would use to describe, a Winston student, and if each one of you can go, what's 3 words that you'd use to describe, a Winston student?
I think, it's hard to say because we have so many different students, but
That's right. I'm not going to let you off on that one.
no, but our students want to do well. So I don't know, they're committed to being students. They really want to achieve. So they have high expectations for themselves in the classroom. And they are also joyful. They really connect with each other and they feel included and understood, and they are joyfully participating. So I'll leave it with that. I know that's more than 3 words. But.
No, it was kind of like, it was like 2 themes, but more than 3 words, but we'll let you go on that one. Michelle, do you want to go next?
Sure. I mean, Stephanie, great job. Those same 3 notes. I think that going off of joyful, I think our students feel comfortable. I think they felt uncomfortable a lot of times in where they were, and I think they feel comfortable. I think they feel connected with the community. And I think that they are motivated, that where they might have wanted to succeed, they might have taken risks before and felt failure. They don't feel failure here. They're getting the support they need, and that's very motivating.
Yeah, and I look at kindness. I think our students are kind. I really do. I think they're understanding of challenges that they've experienced. So when, when they're seeing kind of another student having challenges or difficulty in the classroom, they're supportive of them.
Yeah.
There isn't that level of competitiveness that I have to beat, I have to beat you on an exam or to be better than you. It's we're here together. And I think that the vibe of the community is kindness. And I do think that our students are supportive of one another. And I think that trickles down from just the teachers as well, who are just the understanding of where people are coming from leads to that kind.
My 3 words, because I'll, throw mine into the mix, are, I would say caring. That would be 1. I would say curious. That's 2, in terms of the Winston student. And I would also say connected. Those are sort of my 3, that I would, not that anyone's asked me, but I would throw my 3 in there. So thank you very much, Stephanie, Michelle, and Jordan, for joining us for this school showcase, for to let us know a little bit about what Winston's about. And like I said, this is a very special experience for me as a former Winston parent, as the executive director and co-founder of S.E.L.F, because Winston has been just a really, really integral component, not only of my family's journey, hugely impactful in my son's, continued success in high school and college and beyond, but also Winston has been, incredible, incredible support in S.E.L.F and its creation, and we're all deeply grateful for that. So thank you all for joining us. This conversation has been recorded. It will be available online on Facebook, and anyone who registered will also receive a recording of it. So thank you very much, and everyone have a great afternoon. Be well.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.